hours.
Well, you're currently live on air.
All
So,
right.
what does Victor think about Star Wars The
Well,
Force Awakens?
that's what you think too. But first of all, thank you for watching this. And overall, I thought it was great, and lots of the critics and people watching it thought it was great. And personally, I'd say that it's the third best Star Wars movie ever made. It's just behind A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back, and it's a great addition to the franchise.
Yes, but there's 2 points here. First of all, pretty much everyone, when they first came out of The Phantom Menace, with a few hardcore fans as exceptions, actually were very enthused and thought it was a good movie. Only later did they realize the gaping and horrendous holes.
You know, I really can't comment on that because I saw it with my family and we all freaking hated it. And I really didn't talk with anyone else about the movie at that time. So I really didn't know, I don't know.
Well, the other thing is, are we looking back with sort of rose-colored glasses to our childhood about how good The New Hope and The Empire Strikes Back were? I mean, technically, this movie was better than A New Hope. You could even argue that the plot line made more sense than A New Hope. Mind you, A New Hope was basically the first movie of its kind.
All right, well, let's then get into spoilers. And I'm going to talk about the thing I felt the movie failed on, just from a narrative point of view and storytelling point of view. And that's the whole Star Killer base.
All
Right.
right.
Now, in in A New Hope, right, the entire plot was propelled and based around the Death Star, right? We gotta the plans for the Death Star are out. Leia's been captured because of the Death Star. Darth Vader wants to get the plans for the Death Star back. Tarkin is using the Death Star to destroy the rebels. Luke is trying to rescue Leia because he found out about Leia from the plans for the Death Star, and Obi-Wan wants to get the plans for the Death Star. Alderaan is destroyed, so on and so on. It's Death Star, Death Star, Death Star. This is propelling the movie, and that's what makes the climax of the movie as great as it is, right? Because you are rewarded by seeing the destruction of the Death Star, and in the side plot, also you see Luke finally being able to really first use the Force in order to destroy the Death Star.
Well, I mean, I'd argue a couple of those points. I get your point, but I mean, Obi-Wan doesn't really know what the heck the Death Star is or care. And initially, they the rebels just know it's a plan for a new Imperial weapon and don't even seem to know that it's operational yet.
Yes, but to the
And
audience,
the whole point and part of the movie is the surprise that the Death Star exists and what it actually is.
but to the audience is finding it out, and from the audience point of view, this is propelling the movie, right? Yeah, you can argue that Obi-Wan doesn't know what it is, and
And initially, probably doesn't care. He just wants to redeem himself and give a rebirth to the Jedi.
yes, but the important thing is that to the audience, this is kind of the part of the emotional investment in what the audience is seeing and what is pushing the audience forward. Of course, Obi-Wan cannot use the Force, at least in the movie, to see into what we're seeing with Tarkin and Vader talking and destroying Alderaan and having their meetings of moths of how this weapon of terror is going to help them rule the galaxy and keep all the systems in line and allowed them to dissolve the Senate and everything, right?
Yeah, no, I see your point. Effectively, yes. Outside of the characters, and New Hope really introduces some awesome characters. Uh, the whole thing revolves around yes. What is the plans? What is the Death Star? Oh crap, that's the Death Star. What are we going to do about the Death Star? And yay, we destroyed the Death Star.
Now, in The Force Awakens, first of all, the first half of the movie, there's virtually no mention of the Star Killer base or that it even exists or that's important. What we're told is important is that Luke has disappeared. There is a bunch of people from the First Order trying to find and kill Luke. There's a map to find Luke. We're following the map, and the emotional investment for the audience is into Rey because we're made to like Rey, and that we care about what happens to Rey. We care about what happens to Finn. We think at the beginning Poe is dead, right? And eventually our next emotional investment is finding out that Kylo is Han's son, and Han and obviously wants to try and rescue his son. And that's up to the first half of the movie what the audience is emotionally invested on. And this is what we're being led to go, okay, this is what we want to see. And then suddenly we have the Star Killer base appear out of nowhere. It blows up some systems. And in addition to all of the stuff we are emotionally invested in, it feels sort of tacked on that they also have to blow up the latest Imperial superweapon.
Yeah, I mean, it's a decent reference, and it's different enough from a Death Star to actually be interesting and have an interesting effect. But yes, there's no sort of looming menace and build-up before effectively you just see it.
Yeah, and all the reasons for them to go to the Imperial base are already there without it having to destroy entire systems, right? Han wants to rescue his son, so he's emotionally invested in going there, and it makes sense for him to want to go. Finn wants to rescue Rey, so he wants to go there and to risk his life to rescue her. There's also the point that Kylo tells Rey that the Imperials have the rest of the map they're looking for, right? So you don't need them to have another reason to stick around in the base. Rey probably can tell them, look, the rest of the Imperial map is in the archives. If we get that, we can find Luke, and we just got to steal it to find it, right? To get it back, and then we can find it. Which would make a whole lot more sense than suddenly at the end of the movie R2-D2 waking up and giving them the rest of the map.
Well, they do reference that earlier, but yes, that's a bit of a jump. And the fact is, yes, in fact, Han Solo and Chewbacca and Finn just hitting off by themselves with no support to go rescue Rey would make a lot more sense if they were simply going there for personal reasons.
Oh yeah, like if it was.
In fact, even if they then discovered the super weapon in the process, in some ways that would have made more sense than them being actually sent by the rebellion.
Yes, well, in this case, the resistance, and also for a resistance operation like this to succeed, Leia would probably have stuffed that Millennium Falcon with their most cracked troops.
Yeah, well, I sort of implied that when I said just those three going off by themselves.
Yes. But still, still, we're kind of in agreement. Like, it's just, it feels odd, and for the fighter stuff that we see there in that base, right? It's not that special. In fact, it's kind of a letdown from what we see earlier in the movie, where you see Poe coming in with his fighter, right? And just smoking 7 TIE fighters, and even I in the audience just went, holy shit, right? And then you see that fight, and it's not even that great. It's not like it's the weakest fight scene in the movie. You just got, well, you can't really tell what's going on. They're kind of just randomly bombing this armored thing, right? And you got a bunch of TIE fighters flying around, and you got some pilots without names saying stuff.
Well, you see some of them earlier talking at the base, but yes, but it's not the main focus. In fact, even the destruction of the super weapon, which previously was done by the main character in the most epic moments of the movie, is now done by arguably a secondary character. And although from a sort of internal world geopolitical point of view is possibly the most important thing, from the movie isn't the most important thing.
Yeah. Like, it just serves as a distraction. Most of the characters that you consider important in the movie do not consider it important. Even Snoke, when he hears that his battle station is going to blow up, doesn't seem to even give a shit. He just cares that Kylo is brought to him so he can complete his training.
Yeah, but the fact is, that is not a long-term use weapon that he's got there. It uses up the star that it's powering it for its second shot. So presumably, since you can't fly it anywhere, it's basically going to have to be destroyed or dismantled after the second shot anyway.
Yeah, but still, the thing is, Snoke doesn't really care. Kylo Ren doesn't really care. Finn doesn't really care. And arguably, if you read behind the lines, Han doesn't really care. All the characters we're invested in do not really seem to care about this engine of destruction that is blowing up pieces of the galaxy.
No, Han and Chewie care. I mean, they put a lot of effort right up until he has his confrontation in putting those explosives and preparing to destroy the weapon.
That's
I mean, they
true.
stick around for it. They've already rescued Rey.
Yeah.
They could run away.
Well, that's true. Okay, I'll give that, but still, it's not. We don't feel they're that invested in it, and the audience, quite frankly, I don't think was that invested in it. I mean, it's just like, oh look, well, no, from the audience perspective, it's like, holy shit, they've got to save Rey. Holy shit, Han Solo is dead. Holy shit, Finn is probably dead. Oh, and yeah, Leia isn't going to be blown up. And oh, look, Admiral Akbar is in the Resistance base. And I guess he didn't retire to the Republic, but is still kind of fighting in the Resistance for reasons.
Yeah, I believe that sort of stuff is covered in the books and comics, mostly to come.
But yeah, no, I mean, they could have spent more time on the Starkiller base. They could have cut out those distractions, and I think we would have had.
Not really. I mean, unless you want to make the movie about twice as long, the fact is they're stuffing a lot of reintroduction to the entire Star Wars world and set up for the villains, the heroes, who's there, who does what, and everything else into one movie.
But that's what I'm saying. They could have cut out the whole Starkiller plot and ended up with a much stronger film.
No, they needed to set up the menace of the First Order. They needed them to be a little more than a ragtag bunch of Imperials who are just shaking their fist at the Republic and saying, "We don't like you."
All right, but then they could have just shown the super weapon, right, and what it was. They didn't even need to fire it. And they could have also shown this massive First Order fleet with all the new Star Destroyers and show them that they're gearing up for this mass invasion of the Republic.
Now, arguably, that would have been a better movie. Effectively, at the end, instead of this menace from the First Order causing everything, Finn decides to go back to the First Order to rescue Rey. He brings Han Solo and Chewbacca with them on an unauthorized mission back to the First Order base. They get there, and when they get there, they then discover, yes, that they actually have built up this massive fleet. They've been kidnapping millions of children to be brainwashed into stormtroopers, and they are completing the super weapon. You can even have stuff leading up to it, like strange energy readings off in the distance, planets disappearing.
Yes.
Stars winking out or something, that something is going on out there. We don't know what's going on out there. We think we've won. We think the Empire is basically just a decaying relic, which is slowly dying out as the Resistance slowly pushes them off world after world after world with the backing of the Republic. And then they discover, holy crap, look at that fleet. What the heck is that thing on the planet? Why is that star being sucked into the planet?
Oh yeah. No, no.
Yeah, you could have done that. In fact, at that point, the success of the mission would just be getting the heck out of there
And warning
and
everyone.
warning everybody while rescuing Ray and, confronting, well, Solo's son.
Yeah.
And then warning everyone that it's not over. There really is a problem. Oh, crap. We need to do something. They could even have the weapon. They find out that the weapon is warming up to actually start destroying Republic worlds.
Yes. No.
And the fleet is getting ready to follow up in an attack from the devastation. So, yeah.
And they could even sabotage it to delay it a bit, but know that the next movie inevitably they're going to have to deal with this weapon and this massive fleet, and the war is happening again.
Yeah, no, in many ways, that actually would have been a better movie. Not that this movie was bad, it's just, I think that, yes, that would have made a better one.
Well, no, I'm just going to say that this was the only thing I didn't like about the movie, and I felt it took away from it. But the thing is, it's as good as it is because the first half is so good, and outside of the stuff with the Star Killer base, the movie is so good and well written, in my opinion, and well directed. This is the best movie J.J. Abrams has ever directed in his life.
Well, I haven't seen all of his movies. I heard some of his earlier ones were good, but I'll take your word on that.
It's by far the best, and the writing is, I think, aside from the Star Killer base, I think some of Castan's best writing as well. Maybe not in overall plot, but in dialogue, it's genius. Like, just in a way, it's a smart way of alluding to the past archetypes, like Han being kind of like an Obi-Wan figure, right? But our Rey filling the role of Skywalker, but them clearly being different characters.
Yeah,
And
I mean, Rey's character is a lot different from Luke's when he was on a desert planet.
and for that matter, like, first of all, well, let's
Mind you, I found Finn's transition to becoming a normal human and actually falling in love was rather quick for a brainwashed stormtrooper.
I don't know. It was kind of made clear, right, that you're right, it was a little bit abrupt, and part of that seemed to be alluding that he has the ability of the Force. And
yeah, but we actually.
No, I know.
He probably doesn't.
Yes, he probably doesn't. But the thing is, when he does say that it's his first battle, right? And they obviously have had stormtroopers that have sort of been wavering before because they do recommend him to immediately go back for reconditioning. And before,
he was recommended for reconditioning, but
before
they also implied this was his first, time that he's shown signs of.
Yeah, but again, it's his first battle. It's a battle which wasn't really a battle. It was basically them slaughtering a bunch of people. And before that, we find out he was on garbage detail.
Yeah, that's true. But still, effectively, I mean, you can sort of think of it, there's some sort of remnant, although he probably can't remember it, of when he was an actual child with actual parents who loved him. Ooh, that also brings up a point I think they missed out on. Well, it was a nice, vicious scene where they slaughtered the villagers and established how evil they were. Really, they should have slaughtered all the adult villagers and taken all the children.
That would have been nice.
At least all the human children, anyway.
Yes. No, that would have been good.
Because that would have set up the fact that effectively they're just raiding and killing communities and taking all their children and turning them into stormtroopers.
Pretty much, yeah. No, that would have been good. That would have been actually pretty good. It actually is almost it would be then a really nice allusion or outright copy from Now and Then Here and There, that anime series I actually really loved.
No, also it would be just a reference to the fact of the problem with child soldiers, which is a huge problem.
Yes, it is. But going back to Finn, You're right. It's a little bit abrupt, but I think they had the dialogue there, and also he had the managed to get an opportunity most stormtroopers that probably wavered didn't. He had access to an actual pilot.
Yeah, but all the stormtroopers there had theoretically that access, especially the ones who are actually pilots. But yes, no, he was the one who broke away. That indicates some strong internal character on his part. And then even once he's free and desperate, he then wants to go and help people.
Yes, and also stormtroopers seem to have no pilot training whatsoever. I guess they only give those to the most loyal of the loyal stormtroopers. Get to fly the flying coffin.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, I mean, I guess the pilots are sort of a separate class. They have a separate uniform and they're look different. So they might even be conditioned or trained or even not be conditioned children.
But still, all right, it's a little bit abrupt, but Finn really, I don't know, he's a character, like, I really like him. Like, they
Oh,
sell.
no, he's incredibly likable. In fact, he is the point of view character for the entire first 2/3 of the movie that you're supposed to identify with, like, and root for.
Well, yes.
Even more than Rey is.
Oh, yes. And just the way he kind of tries to bullshit through things, like, hey, yeah, I'm a big guy in Resistance. God, I love that. Especially when Han Solo saves him later on. He goes, hey, big guy, how are you doing?
Well, also, you see that Han Solo knows he's bullshitting from the start because he's, well, a bullshitter himself.
Oh, yes.
But yeah, you see him, and there's also reasons why he's bullshitting because he doesn't want to be found out and he wants to get the heck out of there.
Well, yes. And yeah, and you see his relationship with Rey develop, and even BB-8, and how he gets kind of more invested in the Resistance slowly. I guess he never really gets invested in it. He just gets invested into saving the only friend he ever had.
Yeah, no. Well, the fact is, in some ways, as far as the resistance and the big picture, he's rather amoral. He's not willing to sacrifice up until sort of the very end. In fact, he even lies to them and gets them into trouble, which could really get a lot of people killed on the basis that he wants to save the person he cares about.
Oh, yes.
No, in some ways, the act he does at the end in order to get the mission to save Rey is not a good act.
No. Especially since, yeah, it's like, I don't know how to turn off the shields. I just want to save Rey and get the hell out of here.
Which brings up Phasma. I felt they built Phasma up, especially in some of the promotional materials, and then she turned out to just be sort of a bureaucratic functionary who was easily intimidated.
Yeah, she's just there.
Yeah, she's just there. She's just there to be the lousy boss that Finn rebels against and then gets sort of a revenge on.
Yeah, she's just there to also show there's female stormtroopers, and she's no more important than one of the officers that tells Vader that the rebels are escaping or something, that then Tarkin orders to get force choked. Like,
Tarkin?
well, I don't know. She's basically just a random person. She doesn't matter.
Yeah, she's a random stormtrooper officer, and for all the chrome armor, yes, she's not that important.
I don't even think she kills anyone in the movie.
Not that I recall. I mean, she doesn't call Finn out, call him a coward, resist at all. She just gets captured and does what they want.
Yeah.
And then get shoved down the garbage.
But still, then again, Kylo Ren, I think they did a fantastic job on him.
Oh, no. The fact is, as a sort of angry Anakin clone, he worked out very well and gives a good reason for the whole disruption between Han and Leia's relationship and their difficulties. And as an angry young man, he makes a convincing case for somebody who could be diverted to the dark side.
Oh yes, but you can see that he's not a complete clone. I mean, like whereas Vader would just kill the officer that told him that the droid and the girl got away. He then takes his anger out on a computer, and for the most part, he seems to actually be loyal to his version of the Emperor and the Empire, and isn't clearly plotting something
Well,
for
he's
himself.
loyal to his vision of what his grandfather was,
Yes,
and he wants that vision to come true.
yes, and
So he
he's
is a loyal functionary of the First Order,
yeah. No, well, he seems
if a
to
very angry one.
be an angry one, but he seems to really believe in the dark side and basically this fascist state. Like he's a true believer, whereas Vader was kind of, I'm gonna kill the Emperor and take this place over, and then rule with an iron fist sort of deal.
Well, as far as we can tell, Vader was a believer in order, discipline, and not allowing people's mothers to get killed.
Yes, but he wasn't really a believer in Palpatine's empire.
No, not particularly in Palpatine's empire, in any case. No, he seems to be in it, at least if you take the prequel seriously, for personal reasons.
Even in the original trilogy, he was plotting against the Emperor constantly.
No, I wouldn't say constantly, but yes, he definitely had a vision of overthrowing the Emperor. But mind you, that only seemed to last through the Empire Strikes Back.
No, the Empire Strikes Back, and even in A New Hope, you sort of got the impression that Vader really didn't like these idiot moths telling him off that the Force didn't matter, and that
Technically, that wasn't the Moff. That was actually the officer under
or
the Moff.
fine, an officer under the moth, but he didn't like them telling him off, and that the Force didn't matter, and that they thought his Death Star mattered. And you could almost feel that if he thought he could get away with it, he'd kill every single person in that room.
Maybe. I mean, the fact is, he only shows the real efforts at rebellion in which he tries to turn Luke to his side and join him in defeating the Emperor. And then by the time you get around to Return of the Jedi, the Emperor has whipped him back
Oh
into
yes,
shape like a like
yes,
a dog.
yes, in Return of the Jedi, yes. But anyways, going back to the movie though, uh, no, Finn was a pretty good. He was really well done. Ray, I think I actually like her way more than Luke Skywalker, to be honest.
Oh no, she was far less whiny. Fact was, Luke was actually a bit whiny and irritating in A New Hope.
Oh yes, and she seemed to be a genuinely good and caring person. And her motivation was for a little while was that she wanted to help them, but she wanted to go right back to Jakku because she was hoping her family was one day going to come back for her.
Yeah, and it gave her a chance for some sort of emotional context to the whole um, visions and other things, and running away from it at least for a little while.
Yes, and that she slowly started to figure out her little force powers. Uh,
Well, that doesn't really happen until she's
well, yes, I
captured,
know, but still, uh,
and she develops them really fast.
yeah, that was a little bit too fast in a way, but you sort of kind of got how it could be because she didn't seem to have been a pilot before, right? And she was able to pilot the Falcon through the Star Destroyer somehow, and she didn't even realize how she could
No,
do
no,
it.
she made it quite clear when they were running towards that quad thruster ship that she was a pilot and could
All right,
pilot things.
fine, but still, she even didn't know how she was able to pull off flying through the Star Destroyer and then being able to do that flip so Finn could blow up the TIE fighter.
Oh yeah, no, it was obviously, like the whole Anakin and the pod racer thing in the prequel movies, that she is in tune with the Force even if she doesn't know it, and therefore has sort of, the sort of preternatural reactions that the Jedi tend to have.
And then when she is resisting Kylo Ren, right? At that point, she kind of gets an inkling of what she could be. She is, right? And she's basically resist Kylo Ren because she's just able to tell him to fuck off. And then you can kind of get, she's probably heard these stories of the Jedi, so she just tries to use her powers on the stormtrooper at first unsuccessfully and seeing if she can do it.
Well, also, she's just seen an exercise of those powers by
Yes.
Kylo Ren.
Yeah, so I think they could have maybe made it a little bit more clear, but otherwise I think it was fine.
No, overall, I didn't really have a problem with that.
Yeah.
It sets her up as basically a naturally gifted Force user.
Yes. No, it sets her up nicely. Kylo Ren is set up nicely, especially since I don't think there'll be any redemption for him. Except probably being thrown down a pit.
No, I mean, they've set it up so there is a redemption angle for him. I mean, he is constantly being tempted by the light side. But at this point, yes, for the next little while, he has done the act which irrevocably moves him towards the dark side.
Yes, he's cut off his last tie aside from Leia. And also, uh, there is the point that it looks like they're building up, and I guess this is now speculation on the. Well, I'll cut that off. Let's focus currently on the movie at hand. But otherwise, just it's also the movie is just filled with fantastic directing, like the actual puppet special effects they had, and very little use of CGI really showed, and it was freaking awesome.
Oh no, the visuals are great. In fact, I've never really had a problem with J.J. Abrams' visuals.
Oh, yes, but this is probably was the best I've seen, and also just the way he set up some of those shots, like even like especially the one with Poe, right, blowing up those 7 TIE fighters in a row was brilliant.
Well, that whole battle scene there, I mean, you have the X-Wings coming in over the lake, throwing up this big fog of water in their wake. So you just see these little dots in this huge plume of water moving across the lake as they advance and then hit into the TIE fighters. No, all the visuals there were great. I mean, yeah, the space battle towards the end was a little confusing over the new super weapon, but really, actually, most of their space battles, when there's lots of ships zipping all over the place, are a bit
Well, yeah,
confusing.
but aside from that, no, the visuals even with Han and his son there was brilliantly done. Even I was thinking for a moment, maybe somehow Kylo will not kill Han, or something will happen rather than him just brutally murdering him. Uh, like that whole visual was just that was great. Even the things where J.J. Abrams used a bit of CGI and effectively brought us the Shoggoths from Cthulhu missiles was great.
Yeah, no, having those beasts just rip around, eating people, ripping things apart. No, that was good.
Yes. No, that was good. No. The visuals, everything from the ruined Star Destroyers to the new Star Destroyer to just a lot of the fight scenes, even the lightsaber battle, which, again, nice to see we've gone back to the slow-paced lightsaber filled with tension and actually a bit of meaningful dialogue. I love when Kylo was going, I can train you, Rey.
Oh, yes, and that hesitation on his part brought her the time she needed.
Yes. No, that was a great fight. I almost wonder if they're going to go as the angle is Kylo, where he's going to go full. I need to train her to be my new apprentice, or he's going to go. I need to kill this fucking bitch who gave me this giant scar across my face.
I think at this point he's probably going to try and kill her.
Maybe they might try be going for both.
Well, whoever this new Dark Lord is might want to pull her away and convert her, but let's see what he means by finishing Kylo's training.
Yeah. Well, that now brings up the other point of who the hell is this Snoke guy?
Yes, and is he what he appears to be since we've only seen him through holograms?
Yeah. Well, it's hard to tell. Like, in a way, I'm just reading stuff on the internet. It's kind of funny that when they show him, they play sort of the same music they played when the Emperor talked about Darth Plagueis. So that possibility is opened up. Ah, he could be a Jedi from the old order that survived Order 66 and just turned to the dark side, has been kind of waiting in the background, or he could be one of Palpatine's minions, or maybe even a reincarnation of Palpatine himself.
Well, that depends how the whole Sith Force Ghost mythology is works out. Do the Sith not transfer over to a higher realm or not disappear entirely? Do they just move?
But the one thing I did find interesting about Snook is just in the way the dialogue between him and Ren went was that they Tim and Ren seemed like they were almost like friends. Like they actually, while it might be an act, they actually cared about one another, and was different from Palpatine's and Vader's
Well,
relationship.
it's obvious that Kylo Ren sees Snoke as the better father figure, the person who actually was a father to him.
Yes,
And whether that's just a manipulation or there's any truth in it, well, we are dealing with the dark side, so.
yes, but in a way, Snook wouldn't like yell at him for like failing, demanded Kylo kneel. He even went, "Really? She was able to resist you of all people?" Right?
Yes, which either indicates he's really being fatherly or he may not be as powerful and knowledgeable as he makes himself out to be.
Yeah, it probably isn't. He doesn't give the all powerful feeling Palpatine gave off, although he is using the much larger hologram.
No, well, Palpatine in The Empire Strikes Back also used a giant hologram when talking to
Oh
Vader.
yeah, I know. And there he felt all powerful with his lines of "I have foreseen it."
Yeah, there was no, I have foreseen this, I am manipulating everything, everything is going according to my plan.
Yes. No forcing Kylo to kneel before him or anything. Uh even
But we're going to have to wait until the next movie, I think, before we really discover any major details about that.
well, yeah, no, we'll see more about Snoke, and probably Luke and other people will tell us who the hell Snoke is. And who knows, we probably will see Snoke betraying Kylo at some point, as well as maybe the other Knights of Ren.
Well, yes, that's the thing. We see flashbacks to the other Knights of Ren,
Hmm.
but we don't really see them in the movie.
But there, I can to bring up another point, which is a little bit off from the movie itself. Is my God, reading the comments on the internet, there's a lot of freaking dumb people. Do you know how
Well,
many people, having watched the movie, think Snook has to be an actual giant?
Well, obviously those people haven't watched the other Star Wars movies recently.
No, they haven't. But there's a bunch of people that go, "Wow, Snook is a giant." And I'm like, really? No, Snook is a
Well,
giant.
it's not impossible, but really the whole hologram thing does not imply he's a giant.
Uh, questions on even MTV.com. Is Rey Obi-Wan's kid or Luke's?
Well, that would be interesting.
She's like 20 years old. Obi-Wan would have had to have had her right before he got Vadered, making her over 40.
Well, quite frankly, the Star Wars movies have always had a little problem with the age thing.
Even then, like, really?
Yeah, no, that's highly unlikely. I mean, it's possible she is Luke's daughter. In fact, there's even some foreshadowing which seems to indicate that as a definite possibility.
Yes,
Also, it's possible she isn't.
that's true. If they want to keep going, there should be some tragedy related to her parents' demise or ascension to the dark side.
Well, you could go with that. I mean, the other fact is, she was obviously left in the care of somebody when her parents left. And it
Yeah,
could be that Luke, after his disastrous attempt to revive the Jedi Order, uh, went off and had to do something, that he, in fact, was her father who left.
yes,
Because he's obviously secreted himself at presumably the first Jedi temple in order to commune with the Force or something to figure out where he went horribly, horribly wrong
yes.
and effectively rebirthed the Sith.
Hell, it's even possible, depending on what or who Snook really is. Snook could be her father.
I suppose that's possible too. Or possibly Palpatine is her father.
Actually, that would make a bit of sense in a way.
Well, again, you come across with, the time differential and age problem because he would have had to have, had her, well, well,
No, he didn't.
before the end of Jedi.
No, he didn't necessarily to have her physically. He could have created her as an imperial experiment.
I suppose there is that. Well, if you want to go that deep into it, he could have quite possibly used Vader's DNA to create her as an experiment somewhere. So Vader actually has a third child, and technically she's Luke's sister.
Yes, a little bit
But I doubt
weird.
they're going to go that far into the weeds for this.
No, I don't think so. But I've been thinking about it. In a way, it's obvious that she's kind of Luke's daughter. But in a way, the things that looked obvious, they didn't go for. It turned out to be red herrings. I think she might actually be something else.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's entirely possible. There's some definite backstory there they're going for. I
Because
mean, it's
something,
possible Luke abandoned his daughter in the care of somebody else,
yeah,
and she definitely, as I said, there's definitely some signs, but yeah, all that could easily be red herrings, and she could have a completely different backstory.
yeah, but as you said after the movie, there's something freaking terrible happened on Jakku because it's weird that the map to find Luke was on the same planet as she was, yet the old man in the village wasn't exactly coming to her saying, "Hey, time for you to begin your Jedi training. This is how you find Luke, your
Yeah,
father."
the village elder thing was odd. I mean, the whole thing leads to Luke having been on that world because part of his map is there, his possible daughter is there, but then the guy who's holding on to that chunk of the map is not helping out uh, Ray
Ray.
at all, as
Yeah.
far as we can tell. Ray
Uh,
is off on her own, and whoever that person she was initially given into the care of when her parents left doesn't seem to really be around either.
yes. No, something. Yeah, something happened there, and we're probably going to find out more. Uh, Luke clearly was some part of it, but we're going to have to find out what part.
Well, there's the whole things. I mean, there's the huge battle which obviously occurred there, which I'm not sure if they're going to deal with in the movies rather than in the comics and the books. And
They
then
fought
she's there, the map's there.
the battle they actually have dealt with in the books and the comics.
Oh, okay.
It was just apparently the last battle the Empire fought against the rebels, which was the last major battle, and the Empire lost. And after they lost, they signed the peace treaty with the Republic.
Oh,
You
okay.
can
Well, I
play
haven't
through.
read the latest book.
You can play through it apparently in the new terrible Battlefield game.
You can? I thought
Yeah.
they had said clearly in the Battlefield game that they were not going to reference the new movies.
They actually have now released that map. So saying that it basically takes place after Return of the Jedi and is the Battle of Jakku. Look it up; it's there. There's
All right.
entire video playthroughs, and there's now a Wikipedia entry about the whole battle and the story related to it. However, it's clear that Rey was left there as well as possibly other people significantly after the battle.
Well, yeah.
We're gonna have to find that out. Ray looking to have an interesting story. We might find out a little bit more about Finn and if he has some kind of backstory as well, or well, more of a backstory. Is his parents, and also it really depends who Snook is, because that's just weird.
Well, they left with a whole bunch of unanswered questions at the end of the movie.
Yes. Uh, Another thing is aside from stupid people on the internet, and I could list off again a bunch of the things they missed, but go on with that. It's just how wrong all of the leaks actually were in the end.
Well, a bunch of them were obvious disinformation,
Yes.
and some of it was just wishful fan fulfillment.
Yeah, mostly. And the other ones might have just been older versions of the work of the script they ended up with, right? Because a few, especially the early leaks, kept consistent what they were going to have and what was going to happen. I mean, the only just they were clearly wrong and misled. The only thing is that I'm actually really surprised about is the absence of a rebel doomsday weapon, because they even there was a name for it of the sledgehammer and some designs for it on the internet, and talk about that the rebels were going to have their own super weapon.
Well, that's still possible for the next movie. I mean, they are in desperate straits. They're going to have to pull out whatever they can pull out. I mean, the core worlds of the Republic just got blown apart.
Yeah.
So, in theory, if the Resistance or somewhere the Republic in some secret shipyard has been constructing a super weapon, the next movie will be the time for them to pull it out.
Yeah, well, maybe. Because I was saying, and even some of the leaked scripts, it said that Han was going to die, but then Leia would get this, bring out this weapon as a result. And even in the making of Star Wars.net, they're still talking about the sledgehammer, which was supposed to help defeat the Empire, and how
Mm, well, that might be something which is once again in the comics and the books.
it's not in the comics and the books. It's just things that have
Well,
been.
they haven't finished releasing the comics and the books yet.
That's true. But yeah, it's, even in July, apparently, um, they've been showing. There's images and leaks of this sledgehammer CGI just mowing through Star Destroyers. But yeah, it could be this in the comics books or possibly the later movies because there's now going to be the war between the Republic and the First Order. And there has to be a follow up of what Leia is going to do about knowing her son is evil, her lover is dead, her son is irredeemably evil, her son is dead, and that Snook is to blame for all of it.
Well, I think there's going to be a fair amount of self-blame going around for that one.
Oh, yes. Ah, there will be. But yeah, no, I have to say again, if I was to rank them, I'd go Empire Strikes Back, A New Hope, and Force Awakens. I think this is the the best movie in the one of the best movies in the series. Definitely better than Return of the Jedi.
Well, I have to admit, for all the sort of new genre movies which have come out, this is one which did not disappoint.
Oh, yes. No, it didn't disappoint. It's really good. Uh
Now we
one
have new, interesting characters, a universe to care about, a few niggling details we thought could have been done better, but overall, a good product and definitely something which is worth seeing more of.
yes. The only thing I would say yet is that this movie still, for at least people that have never watched Star Wars before, it kind of did lack a real emotional punch in it yet. Because Han dying, for people that watched the original trilogy, that still had a good amount of punch in it.
Well, they also have Finn basically being put into a coma.
Oh, that's true, but still, you kind of know he's obviously going to get out. It doesn't have the final punch of no, your childhood hero or your hero is dead and now he's flying down. Or in the original trilogy, wow, Luke really idolized his father. He wants to get his father's killer. He's totally going to kill Vader. He's going to win this fight. He is getting his ass kicked. He's getting his ass kicked. There goes his hand. Oh, look. The man who
Yes.
killed his father is his father.
Yes, but that's The Empire Strikes Back.
That's true.
The second movie.
Okay, fine. The emotional punch of A New Hope of, okay, Luke has become this guy. He has managed to blow up the Death Star. Han Solo really is his friend and does care and has come back and saved his ass at the last moment. The galaxy is saved. Everything is wonderful. That has an emotional punch to it. Most of the emotional punch was, well, Han Solo's and Leia's relationship is a complete and utter fucking clusterfuck disaster. And unless you were invested in it from the original trilogy and imagined for years that they were happy together, flying around in the Millennium Falcon, having their wonderful kids whom they loved and were heroes themselves, you don't get that kick in the gut.
Yeah, it was hard to have a big kick in the gut. And besides, the fact is, most of the people who are going to see this movie have seen the Star Wars films, and the people who are really dedicated to it are going to see all the nostalgia and nostalgia moments they put in.
Yeah.
Which I have to point out, actually, although none of them were really cringe-inducing. They had a fair number of them, but most of them were well done and didn't take over the movie.
Yes. And we're just really witty. Damn it, we can't take this fast ship that could outrun them. All right, we're going to have to take the garbage ship. It's the Millennium Falcon. Uh, uh, okay, I think we're done talking about the movie. The only thing we could yet talk is about what we might think would happen in the second and third one of the main trilogy.
As opposed to all the background story movies
All
they're
the
going to be having.
background story bullshit.
Oh no, they might do a good job on some of them. I mean, you never know when one of the directors they've hired on does something amazing with something that nobody expected, like Guardians of the Galaxy actually being a good movie.
That's true, but none of them I'm going to go opening day of with Stormtrooper and Boba Fett helmets and my lightsaber.
Oh, you mean the things that the theater confiscated?
Yeah, I can't believe they confiscated the helmets but not the lightsaber.
That's true. I mean, you can much easier to whack people with a lightsaber, wave it around, and also if you've been waving it around lighted during the movie, that would actually have been a problem.
Yeah, I know. And just to tell the audience, yeah, we went to the theater. I have this Boba Fett helmet that I've largely refurbished, and a Stormtrooper helmet I refurbished, right? And I was planning to wear them right up until the movie started, and they confiscated it. But they didn't confiscate my lightsaber. Somehow the thing that makes noise, lights up red, that was fine in the theater. But my helmets? No. That was bad. I'm glad I actually didn't manage to lose quite enough weight to wear that Stormtrooper outfit. Because could you imagine if they told me, no, give us the Stormtrooper armor. The whole thing. We don't care if you're wearing it.
Yeah, strip down.
Like, fuck. But yeah, no, for the other movies that they're making, I'm not coming opening day of or I'm going to be that excited about. The next movie in this trilogy I'm going to be excited about. I'm going to probably go also opening day and maybe this time call ahead to find a theater that will let me dress like a nut. Oh, God. But no, my predictions for the movie. First of all, the question of Rey being Luke's daughter. I'm gonna say, just from the way they seem to be writing this movie, the series, no, it's not gonna be Luke's daughter. It's not. In fact, if I was going to bet, she's going to be the result of some kind of dark side experiment.
I think that's unlikely.
No, I think she needs to find, like, the thing is, if she was just started ending the movie with she's going to go look for Luke and we never see Luke at all, then I'd go, okay, probably Luke is going to be her father, right? But the way they've set things up, it looks like she's just met Luke. She's probably going to be trained by him already for a few years because I imagine the next movie is going to take a few years after this one, right? And
possibly,
I can't see in a writing way how they could then do that a reveal of, oh, I'm also your father, without it feeling kind of cheap.
Well, no, the fact is, if he's her father, that is pretty much going to be revealed right as they meet.
Yeah.
Because he's going to feel it, and she's going to feel it.
Yeah. And that's not really what they were going for. And they're definitely, from a writing perspective, they're setting it up for some kind of surprise. And I think Luke, again, if they didn't reveal him at the end and she goes through some journey to find him, and we probably would have had a scene where she meets this crazy guy that the audience knows isn't just a crazy guy, it's Luke, kind of like when she met when Luke met Yoda, right? Then I could see a reveal that he is actually her father, right? But the way they're setting it up, no, no, it's not. I'm gonna go with the sort of a dark side experiment or something dark side y about it.
I guess it's possible that maybe she was rescued by Luke when she was young and given to some people to raise, or she was just rescued. But I
Because
don't know.
yeah, that's kind of what my prediction is about it. Because even with Kylo Ren, who is powerful as he's shown to be, and even Snook seems to be surprised she's that powerful. She's incredibly powerful with the Force. And now, if I had to put my money on it, it was some kind of dark side experiment. Probably even with the Knights of Ren trying to replicate Palpatine's work, and they created her or something to do with her, right?
Well,
And
there is a moment when she's mentioned as a girl who's with them, and Ren seems to say, "A girl?"
yes,
Almost like he's thinking of something who she could be.
yeah,
But then after that, he completely ignores that pretty much.
yeah, he does ignore that, but they do make a point of making sure that everyone knows how powerful she is. And again, like I want, like, in a way the movie is setting you up to think it's Luke's daughter, but from the way they're writing it, it's going to be something else. And I think it's going to be something pretty freaking dark. As I said, possibly dark side experiment, um someone else's a child or creation that Luke then saved, right? And possibly left on Jakku.
Well, somebody left her in the care of somebody.
Yes. But like again, if it was Luke's daughter, it's hard to imagine Luke also wouldn't come and grab her at some point.
He might have felt it was too dangerous or didn't want to draw attention to her, but yeah, it does seem unlikely.
Yeah, and it's quite clearly not Han and Solo's missing daughter at either, which they were also kind of alluding to, but clearly it is not. Like they're building up some emotional punch with her, where we're going to have a moment like with Darth Vader as being Luke's father, and clearly Kylo Ren is not her father. So I'm seeing some kind of dark side experiment. Uh, Otherwise, uh, I don't know what we're going to learn about Finn, but I'd almost be willing to say, I think they're never going to reveal anything with Finn, where his parents are just going to remain a perpetual mystery.
Well, they're either going to be dead or I don't know, maybe Phasma's his mother.
I doubt it. Uh, uh, but yeah. Well, here's a question: what do you think is the deal with Ray? Luke's kid, dark side experiment, or do you have your own theory?
We've already discussed this to death.
Alright. But still, the other prediction I'll make for the movie is, well, it's obvious. Leia's going to be the next character to die.
Well, presumably, what we can predict is, since they seem to be following that, this one is sort of a very alternative version of A New Hope.
Yes.
It's not a copy of A New Hope in any way, but there are definitely elements which make it New Hope like. That the second movie would presumably be the very, very dark movie.
Yes, where the forces of the First Order are blitzing across the galaxy, killing all in their path.
And also, if they're going to go over any big dark revelations, that'll probably be there in the second movie.
Yes. But yeah, we've done this to death. It's over an hour. I think we can sign off now. And yeah, I'm going to see the movie again at some point. And yeah, no, I think J.J. Abrams can sleep soundly. Star Wars fans will not badmouth him on the internet too
Oh,
much.
some of them are definitely going to badmouth him on the internet
Some of
anyway.
them are, but people are not going to try and burn down his house.
Yes, no, he will not be lynched in the streets.
Okay. Cool. Okay, I'll talk to you later.
All
Signing
right,
off now. Bye.
signing off.